what's up, fight fans? This is episode 5 of Anchored Aggression. I'm one of your hosts, Brett Cagle, joined today with Anthony Ballister. We've got a lot to talk about. We had Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou last weekend. We've got an interesting fight night card between Marcin Tybura and Tai Tuivasa from the UFC Apex this weekend. Anthony, let's talk a little bit about Joshua's performance against Ngannou. I don't think we're going to see Ngannou fight much more in boxing.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I was actually shocked. Like I said, I never bet against Francis Ngannou, but you could clearly see the difference in levels between boxing. Obviously, it seems like it was more evident than ever that Tyson Fury didn't take the fight seriously, was probably what led to many people thinking that it was a close fight. But Anthony Joshua wasn't going to, underestimate Francis Ngannou this time, and that was, clear. Obviously, he was outclassed, and it was the first time we got to see Francis knocked out like that. So I definitely think this is it for him in boxing because after, getting knocked out like that, there's no coming back from it. He obviously got enough money from boxing to, not need that boxing money anymore. And I think next time we'll see him is in the PFL.
Yeah, and when he does return to the PFL, he'll fight 6'8" Renan Ferreira, who just knocked out Ryan Bader. So, kind of out of the frying pan into the fire there. Tough competition wherever you go. But as far as the boxing fight was concerned, he was knocked down 3 times. We've never even seen him be knocked down in MMA. He got knocked down in the first round, then twice in the second, and eventually that devastating right hand. Joshua, I'd like to see him fight the winner of Usyk and Fury in May. I believe they're fighting on May 20th. If Joshua fought one of them, say, in August, I think that would work well for the heavyweight division. And Wilder's no longer a player anymore, really, after his loss to Joseph Parker. So I think Joshua's the next man up for Tyson Fury. And it'll be interesting in the heavyweight division for boxing. But, yeah, for Francis Ngannou, a devastating loss. But like you said, he made a lot of money. And he made more money than I don't know if you saw the statistic. Francis Ngannou made more money than every single fighter combined on the UFC 299 fight card. So, he certainly made, from a financial perspective, probably the right decision.
Yeah, I 100% agree. He'll be set for life. If he chose to, he'd never have to fight ever again. Obviously, he still has the hunger in him. He's definitely going to want to bounce back in this. And what a better way than, fighting Ferreira in the PFL. That would be a massive fight. A guy being that big, finally fighting a guy that may be able to be his equal. I think that would be a great fight for fight fans. And like you said, and for Anthony Joshua, yeah, I think him and Tyson Fury, they've talked about in the past. The only thing that frustrates me with Anthony Joshua is I feel like talent-wise, he's just as talented as anybody in the heavyweight division. He just, sometimes, has these lumps with, against Andy Ruiz. He didn't look good in that fight. But then he looks great in other fights. But when he's on and he has a great training camp, he could be anybody. So I wouldn't be upset to see him fight Tyson Fury or the winner of that fight. Obviously, the winner of the Tyson Fury and Usyk fight is going to determine the undisputed heavyweight champion. And it would be nice to see Joshua fight the winner of that because if Tyson Fury beats him after already being Deontay Wilder, Joshua's pretty much the only elite heavyweight of this generation that hasn't fought him yet.
Yeah, and I feel like Joshua really fights to the level of his competition at times. When you give him a solid pushback like Usyk did in their 2 fights, he kind of folded. Same with Andy Ruiz. And Andy Ruiz got up off the canvas and then eventually knocked Joshua out in that same fight. So, I like Joshua as a prospect. Do I think he can beat Fury or become the heavyweight champion? I don't necessarily know about that. But I think the bigger question is a lot of what Dana White was talking about this week at the press conference. I think that the boxing versus MMA crossovers will probably stop after this fight. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely see it going that way because we could see when in a boxing match, MMA guys really ain't contending. We saw Conor McGregor started off against Floyd Mayweather. He had his moments. He probably looked the best out of most of these other guys. But, pretty much all the other MMA guys that we're seeing are pretty much getting not only losing, but they're being finished. And they're usually being knocked out in pretty bad fashion. So,
violent.
Yeah. And, what upsets me, though, is all these boxing guys want to, talk crap to MMA guys saying, yeah, you guys can't cross over. But have you ever seen a boxer go to MMA? You haven't.
Just James Toney. It hasn't happened in the last 10 years, but when Randy Couture was heavyweight champion, James Toney did come over. He was no longer the heavyweight champion in boxing. It was kind of in the back 9 of his career over there. And, he got a big payday against Randy Couture, but Couture took him down and submitted him on the ground in the first round really easy. James Toney didn't even land a strike. So They know what would happen if they came over to mixed martial arts. And, I think that the MMA guys are quickly realizing what happens when you go into their sport, too.
Yeah, and I have nothing against boxers. What they do is awesome. It's a sweet science. It's beautiful to watch these beautiful knockouts. But the thing is, at the end of the day, if they had a street fight, winner take all, MMA guys are going to win that, 10 times out of 10. And they know that. But when it comes to boxing, obviously that's what their specialty is. So, of course, they're going to dominate in that realm.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%.
So now we could, lead towards the UFC Fight Night. We got the main event. We got Tai Tuivasa going up against Marcin Tybura. How do you see this one going?
Well, we got two guys coming off losses. Tai Tuivasa really needs a win. He's ranked number 9 right now. Tybura is ranked number 10. Tuivasa's coming off 3 straight losses and alarmingly was just submitted by Alexander Volkov, who is predominantly a striker. So, in this one, he's facing a good grappler in Tybura. Tybura is well-rounded. He just got knocked out by Tom Aspinall. But Tom Aspinall is one of a kind. He's the cream of the crop right now in the heavyweight division and the interim champion, while John Jones gets ready, and heals up. So Tybura is who I'm liking in this one. I think if he can get the fight to the ground, Tuivasa is going to have legitimate problems early. I think that Tybura could get this fight done by submission. I'm going to go with my prediction officially as a decision. I think Tuivasa will be tough enough to survive, but at the same time, I think that the grappling disadvantage will be too much in this one. But Tuivasa always has, the punching power. He can always end the fight with one shot. We saw that in his fights with Derek Lewis and, Augusto Sakai and Greg Hardy. So, he can get the job done by knockout here. How do you see this one? I kind of see it as a classic striker versus grappler matchup.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Obviously, both guys coming off losses. You got Tuivasa. He's returning from a really bad knee injury. He was supposed to fight at UFC 298. He got delayed to this week because of that knee injury. Hasn't looked too good. Like you said, Tybura lost against Tom Aspinall, but there's no, bad of losing to him. Tom Aspinall is the cream of the crop in the heavyweight division right now. Tybura is definitely the better grappler. But I think Tuivasa is actually going to surprise some people and get the win. I think he may even beat a favorite, but I know it's pretty much a pick 'em either way.
Yeah,
and I do think if Tybura does win it, it will be by submission. But I think Tuivasa's quick hands and striking ability is going to be too much. And I think, with the 8-year age gap, I think Tuivasa is going to win by knockout.
Yeah, I feel like there's really 2 distinct ways that these guys are going to win the fight. It's either going to be a grind him out decision or submission for Tybura, or it's going to be a knockout for Tai Tuivasa. I really like this clash of styles in the main event, and both these guys need a win. But Anthony, do you think that either of these guys' careers are in jeopardy at this point? Losing a decent amount of fights recently.
I would say yes, definitely. With Tybura being already 38, if he has another loss to a guy coming off of a knee injury and another guy who's on a losing streak, he's definitely going to go down the rankings, and I don't know where he'd go from here. He'd probably have to start fighting unranked guys or maybe be out of the UFC or retire. And, Tuivasa, if he loses, that's 4 straight. If he shows that, that knee injury has really, really hampered him, he may decide to walk away or UFC may decide to go in a different direction. So I think both these guys got a lot to fight for and a lot on the line, which makes it for an even more exciting fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now we got our next.
For this, and you said knockout Tuivasa?
Yeah, I think Tuivasa by knockout. You got Tybura by decision?
Decision. Yeah, decision.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised at either. Like I said, Tybura can also win by submission, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to decision. If it does go to distance, which, both these guys normally do get finishes, if it does go to distance, I got to go with Tybura.
Yeah, I think it favors him the longer the fight goes, especially with the grappling.
So now we go to our next fight. We got Brian Battle going up against Ang Luce. How do you think this one's going to go?
So Luce is a very, imposing physical athlete from the Republic of Congo. He's never been finished in his entire professional career. Brian Battle, though, won the season of The Ultimate Fighter that Alexander Volkanovski and Brian Ortega coached. He beat Andre Petroski, amongst others, Gilbert Urbina on that episode. Since coming over to the UFC officially, he's only lost one fight, and that was to the Russian powerhouse Renat Fakhretdinov, who's 21-1. So, Fakhretdinov is very good. He's one of the prime contenders at 170 pounds. But for Battle at 29 years old, he's 6'2" at 170. We saw his head kick knockout over Sato. That was very impressive and showed, a level of finishing ability that we didn't know he had on the feet. He's always been a good grappler. He's got long arm submissions that he always attempts on the ground, like Darces, Anacondas, and guillotines. He's very slick in his grappling. I think that Battle wins this one by decision as well. I think he probably picks Lusa apart at range. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage in this one. I think that Battle will use an effective jab and leg kicks at distance to win him this fight. And I think Lusa, never being finished in his career, will also be tough enough to survive. Unfortunately, with some of these fight night cards, I think that, we might not have the best action this weekend. But, I got both these fights going the distance.
Yeah, I like Brian Battle a lot. 5-1 in the UFC. I think he's got a lot of potential. Like you said, he's still 29. What I like about him the most is I think he's got a great all-around game. He could grapple and he could strike. Luce is also a great grappler as well. So if it does get on the ground, that could be definitely very competitive. But I think, on the feet, I'm definitely going to favor Battle. But like you said, with Luce never being finished, I think I got Battle as well by decision.
Yeah.
So now we got an older fighter in St. Pruix going up against Kenny Njoku. How do you think this one's going to go?
So I think this is kind of an interesting fight of one fighter. Both these guys have similar skill sets, but they're at different points in their career. Kennedy's trying to make that run up the division right now that St. Pru's already made. When St. Preux went and finished guys like Shogun Hua on the way to his title shot against John Jones, he was, a very fast, athletic guy that had power in his hands, a former football player at the University of Tennessee. So St. Preux is a good athlete, but my thing here is that he's getting old. And he's going to face a guy in Kennedy that's a lot like he was when he was younger. And I think that St. Preux probably gets finished in this contest. I've got Kennedy by knockout. He's looked good at times lately, and I'll take the youth and length of Kennedy in this matchup.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess we're going to agree a lot tonight because I definitely see it being the same way. I think this is probably the biggest lock of the night. I definitely think Njoku's going to win. He did lose his last fight to Dustin Jacoby, but he was on a 3-fight win streak before that. I think he's going to get back on track. I think St. Pruis doesn't really have much left. I wouldn't be shocked to see him retire after this fight. And I do think Kennedy's going to get the win by KO, probably in the second round.
Yeah, this is even though it might be one-sided, this is going to be an entertaining matchup. Both these guys are explosive strikers, and if Kennedy tries to put the pace on St. Preux, he's going to have to watch out for the left-hand counters because that's what St. Preux really made a career on.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be an exciting matchup, but I just don't see any way, Pruis could get the win. Given his age and where he's at in his career, I don't think he's going to get the win, and I think Kennedy's going to want to bounce back. He's not going to want to go on a 2-fight losing streak as well.
Yeah, I think Kennedy's a decent prospect at 205 pounds as well.
Yeah, if it wasn't for, the Dustin Jacoby fight, he'd be right up there in the ranking as well.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you kind of fight a former professional kickboxer at their game on the feet and you don't get the fight to the ground, you can lose fights. So it is what it is.
Even though he's fighting an old St. Pruix, I think if he wins this fight, he may get another ranked fighter next fight. It'll put him right back in that conversation and put him right back on track on where he was beforehand.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Now, the next fight, I know besides the main event, I think this one's the fight of the night. This is the one I'm most excited about, is Christian Rodriguez going up against Isaac Dolagaran. I think both these guys are two rising stars in the bantamweight division. I thought Rodriguez, looked great, kind of exposed Rojas 2 fights ago. He's 10-1 in his career. Dolgarian is 6-0, all wins by finish. I like both fighters. I think Rodriguez may be slightly the better grappler. I think Dolgarian may be the better striker, but I got Dolgarian winning because I just think overall, if you combine grappling and striking, I think he's the better overall fighter, and I got him winning this fight probably by decision.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go different. I'm going to go Rodriguez by decision in this one, but I think it's going to be a competitive matchup. And when I was looking at this card as, for underdogs to potentially bet on, Christian Rodriguez's name popped off the page for me. As you said, he beat Raul Rosas Jr., and we've seen how Rosas has responded in his last two performances since then, getting finish wins. So, Rojas was no punk, and Rodriguez really, showed that he was a step above in that contest. So I'm really interested to see him come back this weekend. I think that he can get the job done, and I've got him by decision against Dolgarian. Now, Dolgarian does have power in his hands and knocked out Francis Marshall, so Rodriguez is going to have to be, weary of that. But I think that he can probably get this fight to the ground, and he showed enough skills on the feet to me against Raul Rosas, too, that I think he'll be okay there.
So in your opinion, obviously we both agreed that Dolgarian is probably the better striker, Rodriguez being the better grappler. Now, I think Dolgarian's the best at both and as a combination, but who would you say is the better all-around fighter of the two?
Well, I'd say Dolgarian has more power, finishing ability on the feet. I'd say that, I'd have to give it to him. But, when you put it all together and you're able to do what Rodriguez did with Rosas on the ground. Now, Raul Rosas is a black belt, and, he's not even 20 years old yet. He's one of the brightest stars we have in the UFC for up-and-comers. But Rodriguez really controlled it in Raul Rosas' game. He kind of beat him at his own game when they fought, which is why everybody was surprised with that performance out of Rojas. But he since responded well, like I said, and I think Rodriguez gets a win here as a betting underdog.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens either. Like I said, I think this is the fight of the night, and I think it's against two rising stars. I'm excited for both these guys' potential, and I think this fight could definitely go either way. Now, if Dolgarian does win, do you think he wins by decision, or do you think it would have to be a knockout?
I think that he can hurt Rodriguez. I think Rodriguez is pretty tough. It's going to take a lot to get him out of there. If he catches him like he did with Francis Marshall, then, anything can happen. Francis Marshall is a tough fighter himself. So certainly it's in the realm of possibility. But I think that this fight's going to be very competitive, like you're saying. I think it's the fight of the night from a competitive standpoint. It certainly has odds makers, not really knowing what's going on either. So, I think that this is going to be a good fight, but I think that we're probably right that this is going to go to decision. One thing that's interesting to me, it doesn't get as close as this. Both of these guys are 5'7" with 71 inches of reach. So, it's going to be a real close one.
Yeah, I'm definitely the most excited about this. Like I said, obviously the main event's always the best fight at night, but this one's going to be a very, very close second. And I wouldn't be surprised for Dana White to give this one as fight of the night bonus.
Yeah. And honestly, the next fight we're going to talk about would probably win fight of the night, but I don't see it going to the distance, and it could probably end early. Brian Barberena, again at middleweight, will be taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Meerschaert is a jiu-jitsu ace, has 27 submission wins on his record, while Brian Barberena likes to get into brawls. We saw him knock out former champion Robbie Lawler. He has 11 knockout wins in his professional career. This also is going to be an interesting striker versus grappler contest. We've seen Meerschaert get knocked out cold at times. Everyone's seen that fight with Khamzat Chimaev, but we've also seen Brian Barberena get controlled on the ground and submitted. So, it's kind of whichever one you like here. I'll take the bigger frame of Meerschaert, who's a natural 185er. I think that Barberena is in the back half of his career, and this experiment at middleweight I do not believe is going to work out for him, as he's found most of his success at 170 pounds in his career, and that is a massive jump up 15 pounds to the middleweight division. And I didn't think he looked very good in his middleweight debut against Muradov.
Yeah, and I think this is fight against two, older guys. Both are coming off, losing streaks, but they are brawlers. They're definitely going to fight hard. Like you said, it definitely can be potentially fight of the night as well. I think both these guys are definitely going to hurt each other and both have their moments. I think right now Meerschaert has the better cardio, and I think his gas tank will last a lot longer, and I think that's going to be the difference in the fight. And with him being the better grappler, I think Barberena is going to gas out in probably the second, if not the third round, and I think Meerschaert's going to get the win by submission.
I agree. That's what I have. I wrote in our Phantom Sports a preview article this week. I had Meerschaert by submission. I think he could even get it done early. I think that there's a clear path to victory for both of these guys, and they're going to try and implement their game plans from the opening bell. And don't be surprised if Gerald Meerschaert goes out there and gets an early submission in rounds 1 or 2.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an exciting fight. And, for Barberena, who knows where he goes after this. Like you said, Meerschaert, he's always been, competitive. He's definitely been finished the last couple of fights. He didn't look good against Joe Pfeiffer, and obviously, everybody knows the Hamzat knockout. But I think this matchup may better suit him, and I think he'll get the win by submission.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be an entertaining fight, though, as well. So a lot of these fights on these cards on the Fight Night Apexes are competitive, and you see some crazy stuff from time to time, so it's always worth tuning in for.
Yeah, even though this may be, on the outside looking in, one of the weaker cards in recent memory, it's definitely going to be a card that I think is going to surprise some people, and it's going to have at least 3 or 4 fights that I think that are going to be super competitive, even though if they're amongst guys that aren't, well known.
Yeah. No,
So now we're going to say, I'm going to give what I'm most excited about when I look at the prelims. The fight that gets me the most excited is Mike Davis going up against Nathan Levy. Both upcoming lightweights, just entering, their primes on win streaks. I'm excited to see, which one of these guys get the win and which one of them, continues their run to potentially being ranked.
Yeah, now Natan Levy enters this fight as a huge betting underdog, which kind of surprises me because he's 4-1 in his last 5. With his lone loss coming to Rafa Garcia. So, Rafa Garcia is a good fighter. Levy's had success on the ground at times, and I think that it could be an entertaining matchup as well. I'm actually more interested in the Josh Kulabau fight versus Danny Silva, who's making his debut in the UFC after the Contender Series. Kulabau is also a very good fighter. He just lost to Lerone Murphy, but had 4 wins in a row before that. So I'm really interested in a couple of these fights on the prelims.
Yeah, I know a lot of, people aren't going to know these guys, but there's definitely going to be a lot of upcomers and a lot of people that, are definitely going to be household names, I think, in a couple of years from now.
Yeah, I think so too.
Is there any other final thoughts do you have on this card or anything?
I think the women's strawweight matchup between Jacqueline Amorim and Corey McKenna could probably be interesting. That fight's at less than 2-1 odds right now at sportsbooks. But, yeah, I think we pretty much covered it. Thiago Moises taking on Mitch Ramirez. We've seen Thiago fight guys like Islam Makhachev in the past, the current lightweight champion. So Moises has really been around. He used to be in the top 15 rankings. But he's getting a little older, and his record's now 17-7, so he'll be on the early prelims if you guys want to catch that at 3 o'clock on ESPN+.
Yeah, I can't wait to, watch these fights Saturday, and I can't wait to see, what surprises us. There's probably going to be some names that we didn't mention that we will be talking about on Sunday, so I can't wait to bring that to Phantom Sports fans on Sunday.
Yep, we'll have all your post-fight coverage and breakdowns on Sunday afternoon. We'll get the video posted for you guys early sometime next week. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.